Hey everybody, my name is Richard Duck. I'm a content launch manager here at Meta, and welcome to our panel, Designing VR Games for Women. You're going to learn a lot about how to grow your audience and accessibility. Why those two topics? You want to make sure people are enjoying your app, game, experience, or whatever you're working on. This is going to be a great way for you to take the time and learn about how to do that. Enabling more players or users to feel comfortable and excited will always pay off in spades. I'm joined here by two wonderful panelists. They're both going to give you a lot of great information, and I'm super happy to have them here. Ellen, do you mind starting off and talking about yourself?
Hi, Richard. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Ellen Utrecht. I'm from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, but I live in Los Angeles. I'm the founder of Mike TV, the studio behind Shores of Loci, and I'm very excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Awesome. And for our second panelist, we have Ting. Do you mind introducing yourself, please?
Oh, yes. And hello, everyone. My name is Ting. I'm a game producer at Resolution Games. Resolution Game, we are one of the first game studio that focus on VR and AR since 2015. Right now, we have 14 titles across all platforms and around 170 employees. Myself, I have produced Angry Birds VR, Blastone, and right now I'm working with our social VR project, Tinyverse. We make social space for our multiplayer games to allow players to connect for play and other activities outside actual gameplay. I'm super happy to be here and share our experience together with Alan and Richard.
Okay, just a couple minutes in, you know that we have a great panel with some key information that's going to come up. So we're all going to learn a lot here. So I have a question for all of you, and let's start with this one. How can you incorporate all kinds of perspectives, diversity, accessibility, and more throughout the game dev cycle? Ting, I would love to have you kick this question off.
Oh, yeah. So I have to say this is a very broad question. I would just start with diversity, I think. So I would say diversity, it shows first in our development cycle is our diverse teams. Being diverse means a variety of people working at the same group, people with different backgrounds, age, gender, like culture, education, or just life experience. And Resolution would really believe in diversity and inclusion. So that's why we have a very diverse group of people working here. At the same time, we work in very small teams with different disciplines such as coders, artists, designers, and me, producers. And we all contribute to the final product. So when we look at game design or trying to solve a problem, every member naturally take a look at the issue from their own perspective, no matter if it's professions or other parts. So in this way, we constantly discuss and get the best shape of the game design along the development. We really find this kind of team setup really boost creativity and just come up with better ideas and solutions. And the next is accessibility. And that part, I think, just to clarify, accessibility means that your game can be played by more players. I think there are two categories here. First is that your game can be played by more people by genre. So let's say your gameplays naturally reach out to more audience. If you want to make accessible game, you really need to think from the beginning how to reach out to audience from very beginning and very early design. Secondly, it can mean that your game can be played by more people, especially people with disabilities. And this can apply to a lot of different games, such as you can think about one-handed mode, seated play, and different locomotion settings and different control settings, even colorblind mode. And this is something you also want to think early so it aligns with other part of the game design.
That was fantastic. Thank you for all the information. I really loved that. So, one thing you can do, which I know is great for getting perspectives of all kinds, is to start testing your game right now. Test your game with any and everybody that's willing to check out your experience. You could think about how many different perspectives you'll get just by saying, hey, spend 5 minutes playing this game. Tell me how you feel about it. Get some feedback. Make sure it's consistent. Find ways to actually leverage and build a diverse circle to get the information that you need about making sure your game is polished and ready for everybody to play. Now, I've got another question that I want to bring up for our panelists. Do you develop for women in particular? And if so, what did you do to build an audience? Ellen, do you mind taking this?
Well, yes. First of all, our company is a female-found company, and so for us to actually develop something for women was a very natural thing to do. We really looked at the VR space, especially when I've started to work on the headset again. Actually, that was about 2 years. I think in 2020 when the first headset came back out. I was blown away by it. First of all, I hadn't really worked in VR for quite a while, and since then put it back on, and I really started to feel that this was now something that would become part of my ecosystem in some form of way. But I did feel that there was already quite a lot of games there that appealed to me, but I thought that would be more interesting if we could continue to really focus only on creating things for women. So basically we hired a full team, a full female team, apart from the developer at this point, who's actually male, but we had a full team. We started to look at, obviously, our background is marketing, so we really did look for a targeted audience, and that audience, being between the 18 and 30 mark, females. And we started to look at what their interests are and how we could target and focus on their gameplay. So more, moving away a little bit more from shooter games. We really wanted to focus more on meditation, but calmer, more interesting, for me, more interesting gameplay. So puzzling, we involved puzzling. We thought that was a very, very simple, yet, had been around for many, many years. And that combining that with meditation, things that, women probably like more than an average shooter game. Not saying that women don't like shooting games, of course, but I'd like to involve a different aspect. So that's how we basically looked at creating games.
Representation in all genres of games is key for establishing an audience in the first place. With what you said about shooters, if you're developing a title and aren't considering women or expanding the playset to include different and accessible gameplay elements, you might be excluding a huge audience. Representation shows up for me with hair texture in games. I often don't see great hair in games, and that's a really fantastic way to make sure that anyone with my hair texture was considered during the design of your application. Ting, what are your thoughts?
I was going to add to what Alan said, that I totally agree with what Alan has mentioned. From what I can see, there are more male players than female players in VR. And I totally agree that VR is definitely appeal to women. And where do we start to attract a more female audience into VR games? And I think it will start with those who make the games. And I would say when Alan and me, or like all other people are female in our team and Alan's team, when we make games, we naturally give suggestions or ideas from our as a female player, basically. And then the final game experience will be more friendly to women. And I also want to point out that it's very important in our industry to have role model. Like Alan found her company, which is super cool, and also Resolution Game put me in the leadership position to build VR games. I think it all helps attract more female talents into this industry, and this helps the industry to thrive.
That was an enlightening response. I'm learning a ton. So, you all have different perspectives and are great at determining how your different audiences react to your content. What are some great tips you want to share? To kick it off, I brought up earlier, diversity through the game dev cycle. It is key and has been brought up by other panelists. You want to make sure that you actually include it throughout the entire process. Again, I said, spend some time to figure out how you can, for example, make hair better. But how do you actually make sure that's going well throughout the entire process, right? Again, it has to be an entire and a deliberate process. You can't add it and tack it on at the very end. So, Ellen, I'd love to hear your take on this.
Well, for me, again, coming from a more narrative film background, I found creating for games such a different process, but such an interesting one. Like I really loved every part of it. But the thing that I found the most different, and the thing that I feel is super super important, is the part that you actually involve your player from the get-go. So, I mean, when you're making a film, for example, it's the director, it's a collaborative art, that's for sure. Like there's a lot of people involved in making it, but there's one director's vision and there's a producer's vision, and they basically tell you what they're watching, right? What you're going to be watching. However, that doesn't work at all when it comes to gaming, because gaming is so every human brain works differently, so and that process, we have to be testing that process all the way along. And we found it really really helpful to have testers tell us what they've thought of the actual game, and how they were experiencing it, and how they and we had all different levels of ages as well, which I thought was an incredibly important part as well. Like we had people who were very young, like 15-year-olds, or all the way up until 80-year-olds playing the game, and even they had a very very different approach. So for us, I think one of my biggest things was really testing. That's a new something that in advertising or in the film world you just don't want to do, and with gaming you have to do. So that's something I would really recommend.
Wow, yeah, testing is key, right? It's just like you're learning as you go and you're building as you go. Ting, I'd love to have you talk about how you implement perspectives and determining how your audiences react to the content that you create.
So I think we have a resolution. We love to build accessible game. So we have a goal that what kind of game when we want to build. We want to build the game that players can quickly get into when they put on the headset, have fun, and share their experience with their families and friends. And because of this goal, we're trying to focus on building accessible experience, then we can reach out to a broader audience. And I have a learning myself that when building this kind of accessible games, I think it's very helpful for your game to reach out to a broader audience. So I want to share it here with everyone. I hope you find this very useful too. And so I learned that hardcore gamers are usually more exploratory and experiential, while casual gamers are usually modeling learners. They want to see it, learn it, and then do it. So I encourage developers to give more space for modeling learners, to let them practice and master their skills at their own pace, rather than expecting every player to constantly adapt and enjoy new challenges. This is because hardcore gamers, they have years of core game knowledge. They kind of know how game works. While they, even with new mechanics or methods of play, they kind of got this will probably work confidence. But if we provide more modeling learner style tutorialization, even is optional or as a safety net, you might find your target audience is much broader than you thought.
Ting, I love hearing about accessibility in game development. And you actually read my mind about what the final question is going to be. Also, if you just happened to tune in a minute ago, you've already just picked up a gold mine worth of information. So, to close out the question of what's the one takeaway you want to share, Ellen, I'd love to have you close this out.
I would say that the most important part is to actually have women working in your on the product, designing from the get-go. That's obviously for me is the most important part. So, yeah, that's my tip. Make sure that we have plenty of females working at all levels in gaming and VR.
Designing for women and having women on your team will be part of the foundation you establish to not just have a great launch, but a great future for your application. I cannot stress this enough. It's not too late. Start now. Thank you, Ellen and Ting, for being here.
Thank you so much, Richard. It was lovely to be invited. Thank you so much, Ting, for being here with me. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and very glad to meet Alan and Richard, and hope the audience can learn a lot as well from our discussion, just as me.
I want to thank all of you for watching this as well. From here, I want to see how you're designing for women. Make experiences that are accessible, diverse, and for everybody. I'm excited to see what you will create in the future. Check out all the other MetaConnect sessions and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here.